I just finished making a guide on the first of the Lagacy Karina challenges, and naturally I figured I'd start working on the second one. And starting in Act 7, Chapter 4, Quest 6, we have the Superior Kang quest where we have to beat with Stark Spidey again, and I'm picking the path starting with Diablo, as it is actually just a cheese path for Stark Spidey. The way this one works is as Paradox Knockdown. You gain a Paradox charge when you knock down, and the Paradox charges give you a 20% extra combat power rate for each one, and you get rid of them with a light attack. So if you don't know how Paradox works, you want to gain the benefit of Paradox, but also you don't want to hit 12 or you would take a large amount of damage. So the way I'm doing this is I'm gaining a Paradox every time I knock him down with the SP1, and then I'm removing it with a light attack to not gain too much power, because I want to keep throwing special ones, and if I get pushed to SP2, I'm obviously going to lose, because I can't stun on the SP2. So I'm ending my combos in light attack and just alternating between 8 and 7 Paradox right now, and that is basically all I need to do to stunlock this guy. I think later in the, well actually not later, right now, I'm going to actually start alternating between 9 and 8 instead, and this is going to make sure I'm even more comfortable getting to that extra special one, and I don't have to worry about doing anything else. But one thing I did decide to do is walk up close to him, so I can finish a combo without a medium attack in case I'm gaining too much power. You do have to be aware sometimes if you're gaining too much power, then you're going to get pushed to an SP3, or I mean SP2, and then you can't stun. So you do need to be careful during this fight that you don't get pushed to that SP2, and that's why I'm doing that slow walk into 4 lights, so I'm not using a medium to grant myself power. And basically you're just repeating this using the 4 light combo when needed. You usually don't need it too much, but I mean you're usually pretty aware of when you're getting too much, because then you're going to be really close to 2 bars, and then you're like, okay, now I know I got to do that. So it's really just using intuition to determine when you need to do it, and then you'll be perfectly fine. And then this Diablo is basically almost dead. It is a slog of a fight because you're not gaining any poise charges, but I'm going to show you in the next fight, when I already have my Paradox ramped, I'm going to instead gain a bunch of poise charges at the start, and I'll show you that right here. Now that I'm ramped with all my Paradox, I'm actually going to ramp up my poise before I start stun locking, just to make the fight go a little bit faster, because I don't want to be in these fights for like 3 minutes at a time. It's not going to make too much of a difference, but for a while we have those poise charges, while we're just hitting into where we're just hitting a lot harder than we were against the Diablo, so that is definitely nice. Of course, we're going to be losing charges quite often when we need to refresh the taunt, but while you have them, you have a nice burst of damage at least. So now you can see we only have 3 of them, so we're definitely slowing down our damage, but that's okay because she's still stun locked regardless. And yeah, so that's basically all there is to it for the path fights. There is a Mephisto on the path where you can't really do the stun lock, because then you're just triggering his aura all the time, so you do want to slow play that, but it's not that hard. You're definitely going to lose some damage, but then you also have an anti-venom as the last fight, which is literally just willpower food, so it's not too big a deal. So next up we have the actual boss, and because I took that path, I activated the trap node that places a bleed on him when he's wounded, and this is good for phases 2 and 4. I'll tell you why later, but we're going to start with phase 1. I did like mess up and die immediately, so you can see that he's not starting at full health, but basically if you don't know how you fight Superior Kang, you should probably watch a proper guide for that. But for Stark Spidey, what we're just trying to do is ramp up our poise, and then once we have all 10 of our slipstream charges, then we're fine. Basically, when you're fighting Superior Kang, you want to trigger his evade by either hitting him when stunned, countering his heavy attack, intercepting, or counter his special attack, but you don't want to do 2 of these in a row or else he will stun you. So basically, once you get him wounded, I'm throwing a lot of heavy attacks initially, but I learned quickly that that was a bad idea. You shouldn't be doing heavy attacks like that. You should just be 5-hit comboing him. Again, I'm going to learn that pretty fast once we get to the other phases. And yeah, so that is the start of phase 1, but for phase 2, this is how you're going to do it. So for phase 2, when he's wounded, he is going to take more damage based on how many different unique debuffs are on him, and that's easier for Stark Spidey because you have the bleed from wounding him to begin with, you have the taunt, you have the shocks from the SP2, so this actually makes him do a lot more damage than phases 1 and 3, because when you have those extra debuffs, you're doing extra damage, so that's why I think this is an easier challenge. Also in phase 2, he's going to start to slow down or speed up his evade, so that is definitely going to take practice for you, but if you fought Superior Kang before, that might not be that big a deal. So, like, I've fought Superior Kang quite a few times, so I'm pretty decent at countering the evades, but it does take some practice if you're not used to it. Don't feel bad if you messed up initially. It just takes some getting used to, and I still mess it up like I did there. I didn't dash back in time, or I don't really know what happened, but either way. Now that we have 10, we just want to strike him with a clean opening, and that was kind of funny what happened there, but either way. We place the shocks now. We have 3 unique debuffs because of the taunts, because of the bleed, because of the shocks, and you can see we're hitting way harder than we did in the first phase. That's what makes the second phase so much easier. That's why that path also helps this fight, because you get that bleed debuff, so you get the ability to do a lot more damage. You're not really doing enough damage to one-cycle him, but if you're running a bunch of boosts, you might be able to. I'm running a 30% boost because I did more war fights before this, but other than that, you could still boost even harder if you want to. So here's phase 3. The difference in phase 3 is that instead of making sure you don't do the same challenge twice, you're making sure you don't do the same 2 challenges twice. I'm not exactly sure if that makes sense, but either way, you can see the icons on the top of the screen. You just don't want to do those. See, the fist one is for heavy attack, the stun one is for parry, obviously, and then yeah, so you just don't want to alternate those. My cat is itching his bell. I'm sorry that's so loud, but I don't even know if you can hear it. Either way, phase 3, you want buffs for this one, which Stark Spidey doesn't have. So that is kind of frustrating, but either way, yeah, we're just kind of comboing this Kang to death, and then we're going to get into phase 4, which is also kind of easier like phase 2, because it applies to debuffs, which we have in spades. So here is phase 4. The way this one works is that when he's wounded, he takes extra damage per damaging debuff. Again, you have the bleed, you have the shock. You're not going to get any extra bonuses from the taunts like you would in phase 2, but yeah, so there's not that much to say. We're just going to try to get him wounded as fast as we can. I am going to mess up later in the fight and have to use some revives, but you can see I've gotten the fast forward dex on point, so I messed it up there as soon as I say that, but yeah, it just takes some getting used to. You'll get it eventually if you practice enough. Yeah, there's not that much to say. We are at 7 slipstream charges now. I need to bait a heavy attack. I get the counter. Now I can parry and get the counter, and then we're just going to special attack and get the counter. He can evade that that counter attack, or the initial counter attack where he jets backward, which is sometimes able to throw you off, but usually you'll be okay if you're aware of what's happening. And then yeah, so we're comboing him in the wounded phase now. We just need to activate the shocks. Now we have a lot more damage, and we just keep 5-hit comboing him to death. Again, I stopped the heavy attack method like I used in phase 1 to do a bunch of 5-hit combos, and we're just kind of doing that the whole time. I'm going to show you the end right after the wounded phase and how I did it. And yeah, so we get him all the way to 51%, so you can basically do that in 2 tries, but I messed up on the second try, and so now I got to revive and combo him to death here, and we didn't have any poise built up, so it is taking a little while, but once we get those shocks, we're doing a bunch of extra damage. And yeah, he's dead just like that with this heavy attack. And that is my guide on completing the Stark Spidey challenge. So obviously Superior Kang, he's a lot harder to describe how he works than the other Kang. I hope I did a good job. If not, like I said, you should watch like a Superior Kang devoted guide. I don't have one myself, but there's a lot of helpful YouTubers out there who do. And yeah, I think I'm just going to awaken my Jabari Panther here, but Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope it helped out, and I will see you in the next Karina challenge, which I believe I'll be doing the Tigra one tomorrow. So, thank you so much for watching, see ya.